This one DS title has literally changed my entire perspective on the way I think and feel about gaming, and especially my past as a girl gamer. As someone who was born in 1999, I grew up alongside the golden years of the Nintendo DS system, with Mario Kart DS, New Super Mario Bros. DS, and DS Mario Party all being certified bangers that I loved playing by myself and with my friends. I have always been a huge Nintendo fan, and no matter what title or development studio becomes my next obsession, I will always be a Nintendo girly at heart. So you can imagine my frustration and embarrassment as a 2000s girly games lover when I discovered that Princess Peach Showtime is not the first Princess Peach game to have been released. You cannot imagine the amount that my jaw dropped and the sound of it hitting the floor when I discovered that Super Princess Peach was released in 2005 and I never even knew about it, let alone played it. That is until last week when I picked up a secondhand copy of the game and was finally able to play it. And boy am I glad that I was able to play it in time for this video, because it completely changed my perspective on this game and surprisingly ended up meaning a lot to me as a gamer. Delving into the background and reception of Princess Peach, there is a lot of drama surrounding the obvious elephant in the room with this game, and we will get into that in this video. I'm Otter. If you have been to my channel before, hello, hi, it's lovely to see you again. And if you haven't been to my channel before, hello, hi, it's really lovely to meet you. Here we cover all things 2000s girly game nostalgia, from shovelware to certified classics, and today we're going to be taking a look into Super Princess Peach. Now this is going to be a general video game essay about the content of the game, but I am going to also talk about the drama and backlash of this title, and whether, as a gamer girl who never experienced this as a child, really does think it's sexist, and if it stands the test of time as a good game. As usual, if you did play this game, I would love to hear your stories and experiences down in the comments. I always love hearing other gamers' experiences with the games that I am covering. On that note of engagement, if you do enjoy this video and want to see more just like it, don't forget to leave it a like. It really helps out my channel, and I am on a mission to hit 2,000 subscribers by the end of 2024, so I would really be grateful if you could give that subscribe button a little high five. But without further ado, let's jump straight on in to Super Princess Peach. The Princess of the Mushroom Kingdom has a really interesting history. She was first introduced in 1985 for the original Super Mario Bros. Game, and has been a mainstay since then, besides Daisy and later on Rosalina being the most recognizable female character from the franchise. Surprisingly enough, my favourite princess or female character from the Mario universe is actually Daisy. I don't know whether it's because she has a slightly more outgoing and high energy compared to Peach, who's a little bit more chill and reserved. I do think Peach still remains the female face and probably one of the most iconic characters in video game history ever, but it is interesting to note that she wasn't actually the first female character to feature in the Mario series. This was actually Pauline, who was introduced to the series as Mario's girlfriend in the Donkey Kong titles, and would only then after this reappear in those, and was kind of replaced by Peach. She did make an appearance in the Mario Kart phone game. I can't remember what it's called. It's Mario Kart Go or something like that. And I was really confused because I wasn't sure who she was until I did some research and realized that she's actually the first female character to be introduced as Mario's girlfriend. She also has the really iconic song in Super Mario Odyssey, the Jump Up Superstar song, which went viral on TikTok. So it's nice to see that Pauline is getting the outreach and recognition that she deserves. If we really consider all formats of gaming, any sort of game in any sort of console or sort of context, a video game, then Super Princess Peach isn't even actually Princess Peach's first title. She actually had her own version of the 1990 Game Watch, which if you've never heard of, or if you are of a similar age to me and you might not know of it, is a line of McDonald's toys that was sold with Happy Meals in the US and Japan. These featured a bunch of different characters. I know there was a load of Mario ones, but there was other game related ones too, not just Mario. Princess Peach actually had her own one, which featured her running to her castle whilst dodging Koopas and saving Toads along the way. Zooming on forward to 2004, where Mario's legacy is already cemented in the video gaming halls of fame, and Nintendo is a big player in the Western video game market, having released the DS that same year. This year, they also announced Super Princess Peach. I'm not sure if they announced it at E3, I couldn't find a confirmation anywhere, and when I watched the E3 showcase of this year, there was no mention of Princess Peach. So I don't know whether it was mentioned at a stall, and apparently the initial reception was not great. As Craig Harris reports for IGN, when Super Princess Peach was announced for the Nintendo DS, it was hard not to chuckle out loud. It was even gwaff? I don't know what that word is, worthy when the first screenshots were made available, as the game looked nothing more than a GBA title bumped up in size with touchscreen elements. And I feel like you can already imagine the reactions, even if it wasn't in the E3 convention hall, I feel like you can just imagine the global "oh" that happened when this game was announced. As think about how male-centric the gaming industry still was at this time. Ubisoft hadn't even released their Imagine line yet. That was like 3 years down the line. There wasn't this girl-centric genre of girl games there yet. So to have a title this girl-centric was kind of rare and probably a shock to a lot of people. And that's not to say that there wasn't girl games out at this time. There just wasn't that real genre of girl games that was so mixed in variety and quality. Even watching one of the game trailers, which personally I absolutely freaking love, like it's so clever on Nintendo's behalf, the way that they did this. When we discussed the sort of like sexist claims going forward, this trailer kind of squashes that in the way that it presents the character of Peach in the trailer, who is obviously being embodied by these young girls dressed up as Peach. And I think that it definitely shows that Nintendo were looking to empower Peach, not the opposite. As Harris mentions in the IGN article, the graphical quality felt like a really interesting take for Nintendo, especially when we compare it to newer titles that were coming out at the time, like New Super Mario Bros., which was 3D, whereas Super Princess Peach was like 2D bit style, which really did call back to the Game Boy Advance. And given that the game sold 1.7 million copies worldwide after its Japan release in 2005 and the later North American and Europe release in early 2006, I really don't think that many people had a real strong issue with this graphical design, especially once they'd actually played the finished released version of the game. The plot of Super Princess Peach is exactly what you would imagine from a Super Mario platformer title, but this time the damsel in distress isn't Peach, but actually Mario and Luigi, who are captured by Bowser when he gets the Vibe Spectre of Vibe Island. The minute I heard Vibe Island, I hadn't done any sort of research, I was just doing surface level looking at the game. Especially a lot of people like to mention that Vibe Spectre sounds vaguely familiar of something very adult, especially given what Nintendo adds to the end of the game. But we'll talk about that later. So Bowser sends a team to capture Mario, and it actually turns out that he sends a Goomba with the Spectre, which I don't know whether it's his idea or one of his like henchmen's, one of the like Koopa Hammer guys. Ideas. I can't remember specifically, but someone comes up with the idea to send a Goomba with the Spectre, which I think is really high risk. Like, Goombas aren't known for their intelligence or like development as a species, so like I don't think, like it's just a hot take, you know? But it works. The Goomba makes his way into the Mushroom Kingdom Palace and manages to capture Mario and also as a bonus Luigi and a Toad. On returning to Bowser's villa that he has set up on Vibe Island with the Goomba, Mario, Luigi and Toad, We then find out that the Goomba has been influenced by the Vibe Spectre and begins waving it around erratically, which then affects everyone else in the room and makes them lose control of their emotions. Peach, who has been out on a walk, then returns to her palace to find Mario and co missing, and all the residents inside are really stressed and upset, and there's a little mini game you can play where you can like push Toads off to the side, and I was shit at this the first time I did it. I had no clue what was going on. As you can tell from that short segment of the plot, emotions are a really big part of this game, including Peach's power-ups, which are all based on 4 different emotions: rage, joy, calm, and gloom, or like sadness. So you can kind of see why people had an issue with this game back when it was released, given the limiting and offensive stereotype that women are unable to control their emotions and negatively live their lives guided by them. It's really interesting that Nintendo decided to make their one game with their female protagonist revolve around them. As Ryan Davis wrote for GameSpot in 2006, there's something rather sexist about the idea that Princess Peach's big secret weapon is that she can get really overly emotional at the drop of a hat. Especially when you look at Princess Peach's entry into Smash Bros and how much of a badass she is there. As Peach flees the castle to save the plumber duo, Toadsworth catches her to give her Perry the umbrella, a magical sidekick to help her on her mission. In all throughout the game, you go through 8 different parts of Vibe Island, which follow the typical world theming of a Mario game. You've got your Haunted Mansion level with the boos, your Grasslands level, your Desert level, your Cloud level, your Water level, etc, etc. Now each of these sections of the map has 6 levels each, not including the boss level at the end. As part of each individual level of the game, you also collect coins and save 3 Toads per level, which it's kind of like an added extra in the beginning, but what the game doesn't tell you is that you actually have to find all the Toads in order to be able to do the final boss level. As I mentioned, you also collect coins, which actually have a really big role in this game, rather than just giving you an extra life, as there is no game over in Super Princess Peach like other Mario titles. They actually enable you to improve your health and vibe stats, so your vibe can last longer and enable you to use your emotions superpowers for a longer duration of time. And you can unlock new power-ups for Perry to use and additional bonuses for the game. Like a classic Mario title, this game has tons of bonuses. And this is something that I really miss in newer Mario titles. You first save Luigi from a giant Kamek, fight a couple more villains, and eventually Bowser. Once defeated, you've saved Mario and you return to the Mushroom Kingdom, and that is game over. And like I mentioned, I'm gonna have to bring it up now because I keep thinking about it and I don't want to leave you guys hanging. There is a vibrator joke in this game, and considering that this title is unintentionally, I feel, aimed at a younger audience, or it could be intentional, I don't know. Right at the end of this game, there's a bit where it talks about your dad being angry and your mum being like extra happy, and then mentioning that maybe the Vibe Spectre is in your house. I feel like just the words Vibe Spectre gives a visual cue of something adult, especially when you put it in that context of the parents being happy or sad. I guess Nintendo's sponsored by Love Honey now. Super Princess Peach was actually really well received by critics and reviewers when it was released, having an average score of around 70 out of 100 or like 7 out of 10. 7 was the number I saw the most, danced around the like top end of the scale, which actually really surprised me. I expected there to be a lot more surface level reviews where they didn't really play the game and realize how good it actually is, and sort of just saw that it was this girly copy of a Mario game and assumed that it would be worse. The Princess Peach advertisement and ad that I mentioned earlier that I really loved also won an award, which I didn't even know was a thing. It was also nominated for a NAVGTR Original Children's Game and the Golden Joystick Awards Girls' Choice, just missing out on the latter award to Nintendogs. IGN gave Super Princess Peach a 7.8, stating that, for a very traditional Mario-style platformer, Super Princess Peach is a quality product. It might not quite reach Nintendo's A-game, but it definitely exceeds the expectations that people might have for a girly product such as this. So even IGN is commenting on the fact that Super Princess Peach was seen as less because it was a girly game. and in fact it was better than a lot of people expected. Now, the lowest rating I could find, which was from like professional gaming magazine or reviewer companies, was a 6 out of 10 from Gamer Evolution, and they criticized the simplicity of the game and the sort of like notes of sexism. They described the power-ups of the game as the power of PMS in the palm of your hand, which absolutely just sent me. And I do wonder if maybe Nintendo's marketing, I don't know like how widely spread the TV ad that I saw was sent out, but it seems like a lot of people who reviewed the game really do comment and are really pleasantly surprised by the quality of the game. I do wonder if this was because of marketing that Nintendo maybe did, or whether it was preconceived notions and an overall undercurrent of sexism in the gaming industry, expecting a feminine-centric game to be less than the more masculine titles that came before. Personally, I think it's a mix of both. I can't see anything wrong with what Nintendo was putting out marketing-wise. I do think that the screenshots that they initially showed when they announced the game really did not do well. The game looks kind of dead and soulless. It could be the screenshots, which we'll analyze a little bit more later. I don't know what else Nintendo put out, but I do kind of feel like it is a mix of both. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. I think also reflecting on the initial response to Super Princess Peach, it's really interesting to look at its legacy. We saw Princess Peach Showtime come out, and it's been met with quite high praise by professional reviewers, and a lot of people seem to really enjoy it. I myself, as a really long time Nintendo fan, as I mentioned, was super duper excited to see a Princess Peach game, especially considering that I didn't even know that Super Princess Peach was a thing at the time. I was so ready to save up my pennies and buy this game on release day. There was a little voice in the back of my head saying, maybe just wait and see. Let's see the game first beyond teasers and trailers, and I'm really glad I did wait, because I'm actually yet to experience this game beyond YouTube playthroughs. From what I've seen online and the gameplay that I've watched of Princess Peach Showtime, I can actually see a lot of similarities between Super Princess Peach and Princess Peach Showtime. The gameplay seems unnecessarily easy, and I've seen a lot of people mention this online for Princess Peach Showtime, and this was a big issue with Super Princess Peach when it was released. This was, alongside the sexism, one of the main criticisms that people had for the game. I've also seen that Super Princess Peach is very spoon-feedy. It gives too much away to the player and tells you too much, which then makes the game easier than other titles, or easier than it would have been had it given you the chance to explore and figure it out for yourself. This also comes across as quite patronizing, especially considering the audience that is probably going to pick up Princess Peach Showtime. The character has a power-up ally, so in Super Princess Peach that is Perry the Umbrella, and in Princess Peach Showtime, she has a bow. I'm pretty sure her name is Stella, which I don't know whether they've named her Stella to call back to Perry the Umbrella. It could just be that the names just ended up being very similar. Even though Princess Peach Showtime is 3D based and has less conventional 2D platformer levels, I feel like it still has that sort of gentle adventure vibe where the feeling of risk is not really there, so it's quite hard for you to die and quite easy for you to complete levels. A lot of these issues that I mentioned did occur in both Super Princess Peach and were big things that reviewers and critics brought up, and have also then again happened in Princess Peach Showtime, and I'm not sure why Nintendo didn't fix the very key and obvious issues that happened with Super Princess Peach. As I mentioned earlier, there was obviously the rumor going around that Super Princess Peach was actually intended for the Game Boy Advance and not for DS release. A lot of this came from the visual cues that people were getting from the game, especially with the initial announcement screenshots that the game was announced with. Looking at it, I completely understand why, and I think when you see that the actual game itself, that's on the bottom screen, which would be the main screen for the Game Boy Advance, was completely finished and looks like polished and how it was for the DS release, but the top screen looks really unfinished and off. There's something not right about it. It looks rushed and very unfinished, which, now that we know what the released version looks like, is obviously very true. I think my main comparison for this game in terms of like feeling and vibe is Yoshi's Island for DS, which I didn't realize is actually a port from the SNES and was released in 2002. So the fact that Super Princess Peach is probably most comparable to that in terms of its look and like graphical design, that's kind of telling that it was actually developed and made a lot earlier, just shelved and not released yet. It's also interesting to look at the overall world design and villains and see how similar these elements actually are. Craig Harris also highlighted this for IGN in 2006, stating, "The graphics could be a giveaway that the game might not have originally been intended for the Nintendo DS. Its style definitely keeps with the look and feel of classic Super Mario Bros. Games, but Super Princess Peach lacks a bit of visual pizzazz that Nintendo's platform designs adopted when the teams got their hands around more powerful hardware. Classic Super Mario games looked simple because the hardware dictated it. Super Princess Peach looks simple because that was the design team's choice." And I really do agree with this, especially now that I've played the game. The feel and like tacit physicality of a game can change people's perspective and feelings on a game so much. I think people underestimate how much the like key bindings and the way a game feels in terms of satisfaction from playing and like the value that it gives you. Another thing which was also picked up by Harris in the IGN article is that the touchscreen is kind of like redundant in this game. It's used, but it feels really clunky and awkward. During the classic platformer levels, you use the touchscreen to trigger your vibes, which obviously are your power-up emotions, and sometimes, given what you're doing like on the platformer with the control pad and the A, B, and like those buttons on the right, it can feel really awkward to have to like pull your hand out with the stylus to have to press your power up and then quickly end it. I feel like it would feel a lot nicer, and Harris also mentions this, if it had been binded to a button instead. And as Harris suggests, it could have been given to either of the shoulder left or right toggle buttons. Which I think makes a ton more sense, especially given that the game is a platformer. However, there are a few levels which have been added which utilize both the touchscreen and like top screen as one thing for a level. For a lot of boss levels, there's a mini game before you take on the boss. For example, on Grasslands section, you do this like jumping thing where you pull down on the platforms and then bounce onto the next one, and that requires you to use the touchscreen to control Peach and where she's gonna land. I wonder if they then added in the like additional bonus stuff with the puzzle mini games and the other Toad mini games that you can do on this game for the DS specifically, which probably might not have been there for the Game Boy Advance, or they might have been, but given how like tacit they are and how you use the touchscreen for them, I imagined it was probably for the DS. Okay, so that's kind of the content of the game and an overall kind of look at the reception and sort of rumors flying around about the game. Now let's jump into the reflection and analysis. My overall opinion on this game is that I actually really love it, despite its really small negatives that we'll talk about later on in this section. I imagine, like a lot of girls who grew up in the 2000s like me and were gamers, I spent a lot of my childhood pushing away a lot of girly things, a lot of pink things, because normally the girly world is scoffed at by adults, teenagers, other children. Anything pink or related or of interest to young girls or teenagers is usually relegated to the rubbish pile or like uninterested pile or just plain made fun of. Why are these girls who have so much passion for something and show so much love and interest and devotion to one specific thing, why are they being mocked for that? It's the same way that there are boys who will literally make their entire bedroom about their one specific football team that they followed for their entire life. We don't make fun of boys for screaming and running about footballers, do we? Anyway, that was a bit of a tangent. This also like crossed into gaming for me, especially with games like Mario Kart, where I often like to play Princess Peach, I'm not sure if there was a specific thing that happened to me that made me stop choosing Peach or Daisy as players. I remember like there being a specific switch where I stopped choosing Peach and Daisy and then began choosing Toad or Yoshi. And thinking about it, I feel like this happened because I wanted to be taken like seriously as a gamer, even though I was literally just playing Mario Kart on my little silver DS. And in terms of this relation to Super Princess Peach, it's really, really nice to see that Nintendo valued Peach enough to give her her own game, even if it was shelved for however long, I don't think we'll ever know, as a GBA game and then released for the DS. It's obviously sprinkled with a little bit of sexism and is targeted at a younger audience, whether that's intentional or not, again, we'll never know. Playing the game now, it's really, really easy to like look past these small things as an adult and just enjoy the game. And I often actually feel like when I'm playing this that I'm giving something back to my younger self. But even with that, it is still important that we look at and identify these negativities that came with the game. Now, the elephant in the room. Do I think this game is sexist? Obviously, there is the sort of undertones of sexism in this game, given that it's a female protagonist and her unique strength and like play point in this game comes from her emotions, which, given the long-standing attributions to girlies being irrational, sensitive, and over-emotional, which have affected the experience of women of all ages for like hundreds of years in capitalist society, it's so intriguing to me why Nintendo thought to do this. Obviously, there's the classic stereotype that women are out of control with their emotions and no matter how hard they try, they just can't control them and they lead them to make stupid, irrational decisions. But in Super Princess Peach, Peach is actually in control of her emotions. And not only is she in control of them and then not affected by the vibe spectre because she has such strength in controlling them, she also uses them to her advantage. So I think in reflection of that, the way that Nintendo uses emotions in this game isn't inherently sexist at all, but I think in the overall context of that it's Peach's first titular game, relying heavily on an aspect that is often used against women was a really risky call for Nintendo. Like, I think it would be a surprise if there was no backlash for this decision. And personally, I don't think it was a sexist decision by Nintendo, like a conscious sexist decision. I don't think they sat there and were like, ha ha ha, let's give Peach emotional power-ups because women can't control their emotions and that's all they're good for. I just think they wanted to choose something that was different to Mario games that had come before, gave Peach a unique feature, and also was kind of relatable on some level. Everyone feels these emotions, like everyone can relate to that. And I think that makes Peach a really engaging and inviting character in this game. I also feel that Nintendo are kind of aware of this, and not that Super Princess Peach and the way that they did the emotions thing was a mistake. Given that there has never been a sequel or a report for the Switch, I think they definitely knew that it happened, it was there, they did that, and it's best to kind of leave it and move on. Especially given how Princess Peach Showtime literally has nothing to do with emotions. Well, I guess it kind of does because she's acting, but like another small element which I have seen picked up once, I think, over like articles that I was reading about Princess Peach, but I sort of picked up on from the beginning, was that Perry the Umbrella is a thing. As I mentioned earlier, Perry is a sentient umbrella sidekick who helps Peach through her journey. As you progress through the game, you learn his backstory and you find out that he was actually once a boy who was cursed by, I think, Kamek into his in-game existence of a sentient umbrella. When Super Princess Peach begins and Princess Peach sets out to rescue Mario, she is immediately given a male companion, a boy turned umbrella named Perry. Perry is a faithful ally, but the narrative begins to focus around his past and his development, leaving Peach to once again be carried along for the ride as the story progresses. So there is a lot of focus on Perry in the game, surprisingly, and it's interesting that they chose to make him male, given that this is like a female-centric game. I imagine perhaps they chose to do that in order to reach to a wider audience than just girls, given that it was Peach. Not that Peach is like inherently going to be targeted at just girls, but the fact that Peach finally has her own game where she's in charge, she's saving Mario, and then she's given this male sidekick who does all of the talking for her, and we only ever learn his backstory. It kind of feels like they felt that Peach saving Mario and Luigi wasn't enough. Peach is controlling Perry and is in control of his movements. She's in control of it all, she's making the decisions, so it's fine. Like, when I'm playing the game, I don't really care about Perry's backstory, not gonna lie. I don't know whether this is because I like did game research before I played it and I kind of knew what was going on with him, but like, bro, I don't care about you. I just want to save Mario and Luigi. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. Overall, I don't think this game is sexist. I just think it's a bad combination of lots of things which can be read in a sexist context that makes the game the way it is. Playing the game now as an adult and seeing a lot of like discourse online about the game, so many people have said that they just played this game as a kid and like didn't really think about these implications. They didn't think about the context of this, and they just enjoyed playing a game with Princess Peach as a character that they can play. And I know that the like emotion aspect of the game obviously has like sexist tones with it, but I think when you really look at the like autonomy of where the emotions come from and the fact that actually Peach is one of the only characters in the game who is in control of her emotions, whereas the stereotype is that women are out of control of their emotions, it kind of makes Nintendo look quite progressive. My only other real issue with the game is that it's really easy to play. I am yet to come across a hard section of the game. I've had frustrating sections, not difficult sections, and there's a difference. And this is also, as I mentioned, another common point raised by reviewers and critics and players. The game does seem really fairly easy, and again, is very spoon-feedy and points you in directions with literal like coin arrows to like secret areas. Also nice to have that sort of challenge and feel the need and desire to keep going back to the game to like find that one thing you're missing or do that one section again and like get past it, which is just not really present in this game. And that's not to say that having an easy platformer is wrong. It's just that the fact that it's the first like Peach-centric title and you've made it easier, and we've seen it happen again with Princess Peach Showtime, why is it that the Peach games are made easier? Despite all of this, I freaking love this game and just everything it is. I like the way it makes me think and gives me choices in how I attack enemies. Like there's the thing with where you like scoop up an enemy and then you like literally devour it alive. Like you don't even kill it first. You just eat this being alive for like your advantage to get more power-ups. And it's brutal. Like Peach is a brutal this game, and I absolutely love her for it. I love the overall feel and vibes, no pun intended, of this title, and I enjoy that the game is not just a platformer, as I mentioned earlier, but really echoes those old school Mario games where there was a lot of extra bonus content for you to enjoy besides the like run through storyline and platformer stuff. I remember in New Super Mario Bros. There was like a card game that you could play, and me and my friends would rinse this. Oh my god, and the face tapping game where you had to find Mario character in like a maze of moving other characters. I also like the added element with the shop where you can enhance your health and vibe bar, but also buy power-ups and like stuff for mini games to like enhance your experience of the game even more. And I think if anything, this game just genuinely made me feel like a kid again. It really reminded me what it felt like to play one of these older games for the first time. I think it really helps that I'm playing it on a little pink DS that I managed to buy for myself, and I genuinely feel like I am giving something back to my past like gamer girl self, who often felt like she couldn't be girly and she couldn't enjoy these like feminine centric games because she wouldn't be taken seriously as a gamer. I find myself reaching for this game at the moment when I'm bored or have nothing to do. I'm also thinking about it when I'm like doing other things and thinking about playing it. I've even taken it on like long car journeys as like entertainment, which I used to do all the time as a kid, when usually now as an adult, I would just sit on my phone or listen to music. I've now gone back to like playing my DS in the car, which is like such a nostalgic feeling. I think Super Princess Peach overall just stands to show that there are really, really good feminine-centric girly games out there. They just need to be given a chance. In fact, I'd say that Super Princess Peach is one of the best games that I have covered on this channel so far, and probably will for a long time. Now, as someone who is like approaching their mid-20s, I am part of that sort of like movement online, which is re-embracing the feminine and feeling okay to be basic, to be feminine, to like pink, to love girly things. I am consciously choosing to choose the girly things if I want to. And that's even like being reflected in my game choices, in that in Mario Kart I will choose Rosalina, Daisy or Peach alongside Toad or Yoshi occasionally, as I now want to and I know that it's okay to. No one can tell me that I'm not a real gamer because of my choices, or I'm a shit gamer because of my choices, or I'm a good gamer because of my choices. That's irrelevant. And that's one of the things that this game really made me realize, is that when I initially was looking at this game, I thought I wouldn't enjoy it. It was just a bog standard platformer that I'd probably play a couple of levels of, and it wouldn't really leave that much of a lasting impact on me. This one DS title has literally changed my entire perspective on the way I think and feel about gaming, and especially my past as a girl gamer. So seek out that game that you always wanted to play as a young gamer girl and actually sit down and play it. Give it the time of day, give it a chance. Think back to your childhood, that one game that you really wanted to play, or that one thing that you really wanted to do but felt like you couldn't because you'd be worried about what others thought about you because you were a girl. Because as I've discovered with Super Princess Peach for DS, just because the majority might not see the value in a game or respect it the way it should be, you just might. I did not realize how much of an impact this game would actually have on my perspective of myself as a gamer and the way that I grew up as a girl gamer. If you have played this game, as usual, please let me know your experiences down in the comments below. I always love hearing and talking about the games that we love together. And I'm sorry for asking, but if you did enjoy this game and want to see more just like it, don't forget to leave a like and consider hitting that subscribe button down below to see many, many more videos just like this one. So hydrate to stay great, get your calorie intake, and I will see you in the next one.